Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to talk today about the Forces of Chaos, the Ruinous Powers Warhammer 40k Universes Beyond Magic the Gathering Commander decks. That is a mouthful, I know. These were recently revealed. I was going to say they were recently, the whole deck was recently revealed on Loading Ready 1 in a full video. I'll put a link to that in the description below. They spent 2 hours poring over everything. I'm just going to talk about the things that excite me, stuff that I find interesting, hits and misses. I'm going to cover little bits of lore tidbits, things I noticed, references that I like, and how they work in Magic the Gathering. If you liked the video, hit that like button. And if you're looking to pick up or pre-order the Warhammer 40k decks, you can do that via the link in the description below. Use the code KENOBI at checkout to get 5% off your order at coolstuffinc.com. I've already talked about Abaddon once already in a video, but I'll quickly go over him again. He's a 5-mana 5/5 trampling creature that says, during your turn, spells you cast from your hand with mana value X or less have Cascade, where X is the total life lost from opponents this turn. This card is fucking sick. Abaddon is the leader of the Chaos Space Marines. He is basically almost as powerful as a Primarch. He lives in place of Horus. He carries Horus's claw in one hand and has Drachnien, which we'll come to more in the other. He is the leader of the combined forces of Chaos. He's a big bad man. I like that he's Grixis. It's weird that he's not got green in him. We'll talk more about that as we come to Nurgle a little bit later, because the Ruinous Paths is... The Ruinous Paths, the Ruinous Forces, the Ruinous Powers are 4 gods, so I think a 4th colour would have been good. But on the whole, I really like his design. I love this art too. I'm not going to labour Abaddon too much because we've got a lot to get through. The other big leader of the Chaos deck, the other front-facing card, the other Grixis commander, is a 6-mana 6/5 flying demon noble called Be'lakor, the Dark Master. I did plan to do a whole video talking about this guy because he's the first one I wanted to build. I've actually bought a lot of demons and I've pre-ordered this deck in foil because I'm that excited for Be'lakor. He has enter the battlefield, lose X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of demons you control. So worst case scenario, ETBs, draws your card and lose your life. And his second ability says whenever another demon, so not himself, but another demon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. It is a War Storm Surge for demons, which is also in this deck. So it's got this like win con element to demons. It draws you cards of demons. It is de facto the best demon commander we've ever seen. It's something that I kind of want them to avoid a little bit, is pushing the commanders, all the cards in these commander decks to be just better, strictly better than anything else that's come before, and Be'lakor is pretty much the best demon commander now, although there wasn't much debate for that in the past. I love this dude. If you don't know who he is the first demon prince. He's the first conscious entity to ascend to demon princehood, where he is knighted essentially by the Ruinous Powers and transforms into a powerful demon. He's the first, so he actually argues and fights against other demon princes and cannot work alongside them, and he has his own machinations that people don't understand. He's so ancient that people aren't even quite sure what his original species was before he ascended to demonhood. We just know that he was one of the earliest to court all 4 gods. Both Be'lakor and Abaddon both have all 4 marks of chaos. They do not prescribe to one god. They instead flirt with all 4 of them. So they're both perfect leaders for this deck. And then I wanted to also look at a couple of other leaders or legendaries or prominent characters in Warhammer 40k's lore. First off, Lucius the Eternal. I'm not hugely familiar with Lucius's story in the 40k canon, but he is a prominent leader in the Emperor's Children in Horus Heresy. Whilst there are 20 Space Marine legions, 2 of which went missing, so 18 in total, so 9 on the Loyalist side and 9 that fell to Chaos, there are 4 prominent legions that all have a patron god. Magnus and the Thousand Sons are for Tzeentch. We've got Mortarion and the Death Guard for Nurgle. Angron and the World Eaters for Khorne, and then we have Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children for Sunesh. Now, Fulgrim has been missing from 40k for a very, very long time, and we'll probably get a model and a return of him in the distant future. But in the meantime, we're getting Lucius the Eternal as our leader of the Emperor's Children. The Emperor's Children were loyal to the Emperor, being like his first legion, his favourite legion for the most part, but they started to fall to chaos when their arrogance got the better of them. They wanted perfection. They wanted to push to the extremes of perfection and become the best combatants in the universe. They always wanted to compete against others and win, and that really helped when Sunesh came along and offered them gifts that would make them better than others, namely the ability to change their vocal cords to scream and pop people's heads, or to augment them with living whips and other things that would make them the greatest combatants on the battlefield. Lucius is a hasting 5/3 that when it dies, you exile it and choose another creature that is exiled inside. When that creature dies or leaves the battlefield, Lucius comes back. He is an Eternal, which means that he just keeps getting reincarnated. So in many ways, he's possessing or haunting other creatures on the battlefield to come back. If that I don't know how accurately that represents his eternaldom. I don't know if he gets reincarnated and stuff, because I'm not totally familiar with his 40k lore, but he is the Emperor's Children representation in the deck. And I will say, I'm a little bit sad about this art, if I'm honest. I think the vast majority of this art in this product is fucking phenomenal. This, it misses the mark a little bit for me. It's got a very, like, rough and ready and very, almost like, thrash. I want to say like thrash metal. There's an uncleanliness to this that I like in certain circumstances, but the Emperor's Children are these bright, vibrant purple or pinks on the tabletop and in the war game, and I think that this armor not being like that was a bit of a miss. And then we have Khan the Betrayer, who stands in for the lack of Angron. If Lucius is here to be in place of Fulgrim, Khan is here for Angron. Angron is coming back. He's the leader of the World Eaters. The World Eaters shtick is that they don't just want to be the best combatants like the Emperor's Children. They just want to maim and kill and murder. They are angry and they are full of rage. Their Primarch even has an implant put into his body by the people that capture him in his early life to make him angrier than everyone else. And when he is brought back into the Imperium, he refuses to have the butcher's nails removed from his skull because he thinks it brings him power. Naturally, this was a fit for Khorne, the god of blood, murder, and war. Khan the Betrayer is a first captain from the heresy who lives through 10,000 years later to 40k, and he is just a mad, raging bastard. 4 mana 5/1 when it attacks or blocks its combat if able, and when you lose control of Khan the Betrayer, draw 2 cards. If damage will be dealt to Khan the Betrayer, prevent that damage, and an opponent of your choice gains control of it. Basically, it just moves around the board, which I think is really cool and draws people cards. This is a really interesting card in terms of Magic. I think it's just representing how much of a raging, like, warmongering, crazy bastard Khan is. I can't tell you what the Betrayer element of his name actually is. I could go and read it on a wiki and pretend that I knew, but I'm not going to do that. Either way, I just want to focus on the fact that these are like the leaders of those factions. The right-hand man of Mortarion of the Death Guard is Typhus, who is seen on Decree of Pain, a reprint. So we've got Typhus on 1 card. And in yesterday's video, I did say that Araman was in Magnus's art. It's not. It's just some sort of sorcerer. When I had the art shrunk down when I was editing and recording the audio, I thought it was him. This is Araman. This is the second in command, the right-hand man to Magnus of the Thousand Suns, and here he is doing some denial of reality. For the record, I actually love this spell. 5 mana, bounce opponent back to hand that has Cascade being a key mechanic of the deck, but I just really like this card. It's not super powerful, but I always feel like it's fun to resolve. Let's just go through a lot of the cards. The Temple of the False God shows a desecrated iconography of the Imperium, perhaps a sister battle shrine here with a Chaos Star. Interestingly, who are the False Gods? Is it the Emperor upon his throne and the Imperial Dogma, or is it the Ruinous Powers? Either way, don't think the card's very good for Commander. I wish people would play it less, but the art is fucking cool. This Worn Power Stone reprint is interesting. I think this is meant to be like a Blackstone key. Abaddon gets access to a Blackstone fortress that he crashes into Cadia, which we'll talk more about in a moment, to destroy it. And this may be the key to that. I'm not 100% sure if that's what this is showing, but Worn Power Stones in Magic are ancient artifacts from the Thran, where this Worn Power Stone is showing an ancient artifact from the Ancient Ones, or from early Necron civilization when they were fighting against the Ancient Ones during the War in Heaven. Yes, there's a lot to unpack there. I'm going to not unpack all of it. Assault Suit gets a reprint, and it's probably, I think, the first foil version of it, if the people I'm talking about earlier on my Discord to be believed. The foil version being in the promo version of this deck, obviously, the collector edition. Assault Suit here shows a World Eater's Terminator suit, which is just so flavorful. You're going to trap them in a Terminator piece of armor, some tactical dreadnought armor, and have them go out and just battle and fuck things up. How very, very, very Khorne. Chromatic Lantern's also a decent reprint, showing some sort of Chaos Lantern. Nothing too exciting here, but I just think it's a solid reprint. Commander Sphere, a card that I love, and I will die on this fucking hill. Play Commander Sphere, because being able to sack it to draw cards is decent. This shows as a orb of chaotic energy on Magnus's very own spear. The fact that I get a Commander Sphere now that also references my favourite Primarch, oh, sign me up. The Warstorm Surge reprint is not exciting as such, but I do think it's good in the Bellicor deck to double up on your damage, and you see a lot of demons in the art as well, so it's kind of just telling you to do that. Past in Flames shows a Blackstone Fortress crashing into the surface of Cadia. Oh, there's a lot to unpack here, but it's a fucking brutal moment from the Gathering Storm at the end of 7th, beginning of 8th, where Abaddon really decided to go fucking ham and blow up the fortress world of Cadia, the main recruitment grounds for the Imperial Guard, and a bastion, a safe haven, a important world in terms of keeping the Eye of Terror at bay, a giant warp storm hole in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. When Cadia fell, it tore the universe in two, it blacked out interstellar travel for a short period of time, and demons managed to breach the defenses of Earth and appear on the Earth's surface and on the moon because things went to shit. I think it's cool to see it on Past in Flames because Past in Flames is such an iconic and powerful competitive staple that sees quite a bit of play in things like Modern and Legacy, but I don't really understand why this would be the Past in Flames. I guess the falling of Cadia is one of the biggest defeats the Imperium has ever suffered, so I guess that really is looking at the Past in Flames. Chaos Warp reprint here showing us Sisters of Battle, some Necrons, and a Tyranid all getting sucked into a big warp rift. I'm into it. And Blasphemous Act was an easy pick for me to be in the deck. It shows a Chaos Space Marine doing some naughty things. I was almost certain this was going to be in the Chaos deck. I was heralding it as a thing that we had to see, and here it is. And the last reprint I want to talk about is Dark Ritual, but showing the symbol and the signs of Nurgle, plague beetles and insects crawling out of a dilapidated skull. So new cards then. Zangor Shaman, a 4-mana 3/3 flying creature. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, copy the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn. And when you cast it, you may choose new targets for the copy. So it's a spell copier. It's part of the old spell slinging sub-theme of the deck. The Zangor are basically beastmen, either beastly or bird-like. When 40k was initially conceptualized, we had Space Elves become the Eldar, and Space Dwarves become the Squats, and Orcs become, well, the Orcs. A lot of fancy tropes moved across. Some of those fancy tropes were changed slightly to fit the lore. So beastmen, ogres, and halflings or hobbits, halflings, they were all converted into or became mutant archetypes or mutations of the human genome, essentially. So Ogryn and Ratlings and even the Zangors are like mutations. The difference between Ogryn and Ratlings and these things is that these things are abhorrent within the Imperium. These things will be killed on sight. Meanwhile, Tzeentch invites them in to join forces with the forces of chaos and live a life in service of the Ruinous Powers. We have a card representing the Ruinous Powers. Now, some people might think these are the four gods. Left to right, we've got Nurgle, Khorne, Sunesh, and Tzeentch. They aren't, because those gods don't have physical manifestations within the material plane. These are the four greater demons, or four versions of the greater demons, which are avatars of those gods. The Great Unclean One, the Bloodthirster, the Keeper of Secrets, and the Lord of Change. The enchantment is a 4-mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose an opponent at random. Exile top card of that player's library. Until the end of turn, you may play that card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any card to do so. And when you cast a spell this way, its owner loses life equal to its mana value. I think this isn't grossly powerful, but I think it's a very fun card. I do enjoy playing my opponent's stuff, especially there's an element of randomness to it, so people can't get bitter that you're targeting them. I think this card's really fucking cool. It also adds to this theme that the Ruinous Powers themselves are taking control of other people's shit. They are looking to co-opt or coerce people to their cause. Pink horrors are the frontline troops of Tzeentch. So these are like mutant, they fire, they spit energy and warp magic from their mouths. And they also have this thing where they split. They're hard to kill because when you cut them in two, the two halves form newer, smaller, identical, less powerful versions of the latter. They actually break down to a third step from here. They go pink to blue to brimstone in the tabletop game. But here we see pink horrors as a 5-mana 4/4. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 2 damage to any target. So it's like a better gutter snipe. And when it splits, when it dies, create 2/2/2 blue and red demon horror creatures, tokens named blue horror, with whenever you cast a spell, ping something for 1. So they literally split from a 4/4 that pings for 2 into 2/2s that ping for 1. Very favourable, very thematic, and I think I'm going to be playing this in my Be'lakor deck. Magnus the motherfucking Red, the Demon Primarch of the Thousand Suns. I'm not going to go into huge detail about him because I did a whole 10-minute video on him yesterday, but he is at the forefront of the Thousand Suns, and he's my favourite Primarch. And I think this whole decreasing the cost of spells things is a wonderful and interesting way of representing the fact that he is probably the best wizard in the universe. I will say, it's a shame he's not Demon Primarch Wizard, but I think I just run out of space. Kill, maim, burn. The catchphrase, well, the secondary catchphrase of Khorne, the first one being blood for the blood god. Kill, maim, burn. I think this is Gore Drink, I want to say. Or was that not even from League of Legends? Either way, I think it's the axe that Khan the Betrayer uses, a named axe. That might be one of Angon's axes, actually. It might return to him when we see the new model come out. A 5-mana spell that says choose one or more, destroy an artifact, destroy a creature, and deal 3 damage to the target player. So 5 mana to do all 3. Cool modal card with some really evocative art. I love it. This is one of the best cards in the deck. Horus Heresy, a 6-mana saga. For each opponent, gain control of up to one target non-legendary creature that player controls for as long as the Horus Heresy remains on the battlefield. Number 2 is draw a card for each creature you control but don't own. And number 3, the third pip. Starting with you, each player chooses a creature, destroy each creature chosen this way. Sagas are used to represent stories within the canon of Magic, usually things that have happened in the past, look backs at old histories. The Horus Heresy is its own separate game based off the background, a lore that has been expanded over the years up to 52 books, and then a further second book series about the ending of the Heresy. The Horus Heresy has exploded from a little cut-out, standout box in one rulebook back in like 1992 into like one of the biggest parts of the Warhammer canon. The Heresy is where Horus turned against the Emperor and made 8 of the Space Marine legions go with him, and we had a big civil war that really fucked the universe up. Here we see a stained glass rendition of it. Looks to be in a church that is currently occupied by Chaos because there's a Chaos Star in the forefront. We see Horus Lupercal, who is the War Master, turning against the Emperor, and we see a dead Sanguinius, the Primarch of the Blood Angels, below him. Thematically, I really like this card, but there's a small inconsistency that I don't like. So the first pip is gain control of target non-legendary creature. Now this can be either Horus turning people to his banner like he did with Fulgrim, Angron, eventually Magnus, Mortarion, but they were all legendary brothers of his, so why it says non-legendary is very confusing. It's probably to stop people from stealing other people's commanders, but Horus did that. He stole many a commander, so it bugs me that it says non-legendary. There's also like another layer where it could be representing where Horus was turned, but it's actually the Ruinous Powers enacting this whole thing, which is what happened. Horus was turned because he was shown fake visions of the future. So this could be Horus being stolen by the Ruinous Powers away from the Emperor and the Imperium. However, again, it says non-legendary, and if Horus was a card, he would be legendary. That's Abaddon's dad, by the way, essentially. So it's saying non-legendary is very fucking strange to me, but the rest of it is so evocative of this war where people are separated onto 2 different sides. People change sides. You're gaining resources because of it, and eventually people like Sanguinius are gonna die. The Hellbrute is the Chaos Space Marine version of a Dreadnought. A Dreadnought in 40k, as I talked about in a short a couple of weeks ago that you should check out, is a walking battle tomb that they use to keep injured or near-death Space Marines still in action. So they get into this battle tank thing that's basically a sarcophagus, and they get to keep fighting, and they get put in suspended animation between battles because being attached to a load of guns and a mechanized death machine really does a number on your mental health. But the Chaos Forces don't give a fuck about that, and the Hellbrute is the brutal manifestation of that War Engine plus near-dead Chaos Space Marine coming together in a beautiful cacophony of violence and fuckery. You may cast Hellbrute from your graveyard by exiling another creature card from your graveyard in addition to paying its other costs. It's a very cool, flavorful way to represent the sarcophagus, as it says here, where it's taking something from your graveyard and entombing it in this machine to fight again, to fight even past death in some ways, for only in death does duty end. The Exalted Flame of Tzeentch is just a big old flamer. Flamers are like fire-spewing demons that the Tzeentch forces deploy. This is the Exalted, the bigger one. Beginning of your upkeep, return an instant or sorcery card from a random from your graveyard to your hands. There's a bit of Pitchburn Devils there. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Exalted Flamer deals 1 damage to each opponent. So it's a pinger for everyone at the table. Interesting, cool. Weirdly, one of the most powerful units in the current 40k game. This fits, I guess. It's a reasonable card. Dracnien is a demonic entity that does not have an affiliation with any particular chaos god, similar to Abaddon and Be'lakor, that was manifested or trapped, I'm not sure on the exact intricacies of how it happened, into a sword that now Abaddon wields and uses to murder and maim. Dracnien itself is like a big teeth monster. It's just a lot of fucking teeth. When this 6-mana equipment enters the battlefield, exile target creature, and equipped creature has menace and gets +X/+0, where X is the exiled card's power, and has a 2-mana equip cost, so quite cheap. It being 6-mana balances it a little bit. I really kind of want to Stoneforge this into play in Legacy, eat a large creature, then equip it. I mean, it can exile an Emrakul, for example, then equip it to one of my Flickerwisps and murder someone. Interestingly, I did bring up that this would be good to like exile a Marit Lage or Murktides in Legacy currently, if we were going down that meme route. But the problem is that apparently it doesn't work with Marit Lage because it won't be able to check the power, and it'll also check only the native power on the Murktide, the 3 as opposed to the pumped one. Either way, very cool and flavorful that captures the soul of an enemy creature and then uses it to kill people. It's fucking sick. Chaos Mutation is a polymorph for each player at the table, or any number of target creatures controlled by different players. They just get to go looking for another creature. It's just a representation of how the Chaos magic can transform, mutate, and give boons and powerful upgrades to people who follow the Ruinous Powers. The Chaos Defiler is a 5-mana 5/4 trampling demon construct. When it enters the battlefield or dies, each opponent chooses a non-land permanent that player controls, and you destroy one of them at random. I think this is so much fun, because you have to do this political thing where you ask people what they want to get picked, and you pick the other thing, and then maybe it doesn't blow up, maybe it does, and you're playing fucking mind games and randomization with people. I think this card is really fun. The Defiler itself is a huge demon engine. Demon engines are machines that have had demons implanted inside them, allowed to grow, that then take over, and then they become like monstrous demon tanks and demon fighting engines for the forces of the Chaos Space Marines. Seekers of Sunesh are the cavalry of the Suneshi demons. It has haste, it's a 3/3 for 4 mana. Each opponent must attack with at least one creature each combat if able, because it lures people into the cacophony of battle. Sure. Okay, Noise Marine, this is way cooler. Look at the fucking art here. Look at the colour of that arm of the Emperor's Children. The Noise Marines are the sort of like long range or heavy assault troops of the Emperor's Children who use sonic weaponry. This is noise blasters and psychic screams and, well, in the case of the classic Noise Marine, a fucking guitar for a gun. These things, they show off that element of the Emperor's Children where they look to take the upgrades and the boons of Sunesh, which is a decadence and hedonism and extremes, the extremes of art and using your vocal cords to fight people and be better than others. It's a holdover from when Warhammer was even sillier than it is now, but I fucking love the art, and I love this sort of storm cascade payoff where you get to do damage to people equal to the number of spells you've cast. I think that's really fucking. Let the galaxy burn. This is Abaddon's catchphrase. Everybody has a catchphrase, right? It's a cascading X spell, so I guess if you pump more mana into it, you get a better cascade. Let the galaxy burn does X damage +2 to each creature that didn't enter the battlefield this turn. So basically, it can't damage the creature that it cascades into, because the creature will enter and the spell will resolve. It's a big old like pseudo wrath that also draws you another card and plays into the casting things from exile sub-theme of the deck. Cool card, cool flavour, and you see a Chaos Star burnt onto a planet there. Knight Rampager, a 5 mana 6/5 trampling knight, frenzied rampage. At the beginning of a combat on your turn, choose an opponent at random. Knight Rampager attacks that player this combat if able, and when Knight Rampager dies, it deals 4 damage to target opponent chosen at random. The knights are giant mechs that are powered by, they're piloted by humans who are either aligned to the Imperium or in this case to the forces of chaos. In some ways, I thought this would actually be a vehicle, but it's not. It's a 6/5. It's like kind of like Ruhan. Yeah, it's got. I actually shocked this as a rare. It feels uncommon in terms of it not being that exciting. Keeper of Secrets is the first Greater Demon we've seen. It's a 6 mana 6/4 first striking hasting monstrosity. See, the demons of Sunesh are known for being incredibly fast and getting into combat very quickly. And then it's Symphony of Pain says whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hands, that's graveyard or exile, a Keeper of Secrets deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. So that means that you can cascade to trigger this, you can flash back to trigger this. It's a very powerful effect. It could be a food chain kill condition, it could be a kill condition for Prosper. I think this card's going to see quite a bit of play. It's very powerful. We see a demon herald here that gives demons haste. It's a throwback to the old locus or the loci of the previous demon codex where you can give everything advance and charge, I guess. You can't do that anymore. Demon spells you cast cost 2 less to cast as well. This card is fucking pushed in terms of the utility. Lowering costs and making things have haste. It's basically a goblin war chief or whatever, but for demons and slightly better in reducing costs by 2. I can't wait to play this in Bellicor. The Dark Apostle is it's like a chaplain of the Imperium that's fell to the darkness of chaos. So it likes to read dark prayers to the dark gods from its dark book, the Dark Apostle. 3 mana tap, next non-creature spell you cast to turn out Cascades. A pretty straightforward effect, pretty cool. I like it. Chaos Terminator Lord is a 4 mana 3/3 Chaos Lord, so a leader, a captain in Terminator armor. Terminator armor is meant to make you basically impervious to small arms fire. Somehow this thing is still only a 3/3 though. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. The armor, the coloring on it here is of the Black Legion, of Abaddon's Legion. Horus's Legion that was given over and mourns for the loss of Horus under Abaddon's banner. It's weird though that this gives double strike, like captains will buff and be force multipliers and improve the power of the other Marines around them, both on the loyalist and the non-loyalist side. But the fact that this gives double strike makes me feel like it's more of a World Eater style, like melee and close combat is important. So it's just a bit strange this is Black Legion. The mechanics and the armor don't quite match up like I would have expected. The Bloodthirster, Khorne's Greater Demon. A 6 mana 6/6 with flying and trample. Whenever Bloodthirster deals combat damage to a player, untap it. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. Bloodthirster can't attack a player it has already attacked this turn. So basically you get to have a combat step for each opponent you have in play if you can attack and have this survive and untap with it. This is fucking powerful. Another Greater Demon that's going to be very, very strong. I'm going to definitely play it in Be'lakor. Blood Crusher of Khorne. This is a Khorne Herald trample. Other creatures you control have trample, so it's just buffing your demons, or in this case, all creatures. And we see a Blood Crusher of Khorne here. It is one of the smaller Khorne foot troops, like a lesser demon, but it's driving or riding on a big, like, armored bull, essentially, a Blood Crusher. Aspiring Champion is a champion of Khorne, or a champion of any of the gods, in this case Khorne because it's in red armor, but this thing is looking to ascend and become a demon, and it does that by dealing combat damage to a player, and if it does, you reveal cards on top of your library, you destroy this and put that into play. It polymorphs itself into a bigger creature, hopefully. I guess sometimes, though, the Chaos Gods can be cruel, and you accidentally polymorph your Aspiring Champion into like a smaller creature, or it might become a Chaos Demon, a Greater Demon, like it really wants to. The Teleman of Knowle is an interesting unit. 3 mana, 2/3, life-linking Astartes Warrior. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. If 7 or more creatures died this turn, instead you draw 7 cards and lose 7 life. 7 is the blessed number of Nurgle. Each of the gods have their own number. Khorne's is 8, for example. So the Nurgle's is 7. So in this case, the Teleman is keeping a record of all your deeds, and if you achieve the blessed number, you will be rewarded with bountiful gifts from Nurgle's garden. The Sloppity Bilepiper is the Herald of Nurgle. We've seen a herald for each of the demons now, I think. Have we seen a Zeech one? I'm not sure. Either way, 4 mana, 3/3, 2 mana and sack it. 2 mana and sacrifice a creature. The next creature spell you cast this turn has Cascade. More cascading enablers here. The Sloppity Bilepiper is fun because his name is fucking ridiculous. He's playing bagpipes. And we know that the Jester's one that he's shaking is definitely made from the previous Sloppity Bilepiper, the previous herald that might have died in combat. And then there's also the theory that the bagpipes themselves are also made from remnants of its predecessor as well. Isn't Warhammer cool? Poxwalkers are a zombie, a 3/1 for 3 mana, death touching, Curse of the Walking Pox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, return Poxwalker from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This is Dredge's new toy for Legacy. This is actually going to see play in Legacy. I'm almost certain of it. You can cast a Cabal Therapy, a Dread Return. You can also cast Grave Crawlers themselves or similar things, and Poxwalkers will just come back from the graveyard and into play. Even if it is tapped, it still enables you to then Dread Return your next thing. This will be a combo enabler and a very powerful zombie. Plague Drone is a Plaguebearer, the frontline troop of the Nurgle demon armies, riding on a giant fucking rotfly. There's not much more to say other than that. It's a big gross Nurgly thing. If an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. A Tainted Remedy, strapped to a 3/3 flying big fly. I really like Nurgle's Rot, a 1 mana enchantment. You enchant a creature an opponent controls. When it dies, return Nurgle's Rot to its owner's hand, and that creature, and you create a 1/3 black demon creature token named Plaguebearer of Nurgle, where you're infecting and destroying the enemy forces, and they're coming back as zombified corpses, demon corpses. Speaking of zombified demon corpses, Nurgle's Conscription is a 5 mana instant to take an enemy creature from an opponent's graveyard, put it to play under your control tapped, and exile that player's graveyard, which is pretty fucking strong. Mortarion is a demon Primarch of the Death Guard. This guy is a 5/6 for 6 mana. He has flying, and at the beginning of your end step, you may pay X. If you do, create X 2/2 black. Astartes Warrior creature tokens with Menace. X can't be greater than the amount of life lost this turn. Honestly, the effect, I mean, it makes a lot of Death Guard troops, sure, but it's not very exciting if we're honest. Mortarion is a big, plaguey boy, a really powerful, incredibly durable menace upon the tabletop. As far as Demon Primarchs are concerned, I think I prefer Magnus by quite a big margin. Mortarion being mono black here, I guess we should talk about this real quick. Nurgle is the god of not only decay and death, but of rebirth and the cycle of life. He often leaves behind trees and plants in his wake when his demons descend. So I always thought that Nurgle would be green-black, and there's no green in this deck, obviously. I wonder if we ever get a return to 40k and we get more Death Guard or more Nurgle, using their own deck exclusively, and that way they can explore green and black, but I guess this allows it to fit as a more cohesive whole, being the Grixis deck. I love me some Mortarion, but this is okay, I guess. The Great Unclean one, my favourite Greater Demon on the tabletop into the model, is a 5 mana, 4/5, reverberating summons. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses 2 life. And for each opponent who has less life than you, create a 1/3 black demon creature token named Plaguebearer of Nurgle. So creating more Plaguebearers. He's a 4/5. This thing is meant to be like really difficult to kill. Like his damage output isn't meant to be high, but it's meant to be like a massive hulking tank of a monster. And I can't help but feel without any ward, without any regeneration, without any growing to get over the damage it's being dealt, I feel like this doesn't really represent what I associate with Great Unclean ones. I think this is actually the biggest miss of any of the demons in this deck. It's a shame to see. I love me a Great Unclean one. Blight Grenade is a sweet bit of tech though. It's 5 mana, destroy target creature. All creatures get -3/-3 until end of turn. You hit someone with a grenade, it blows up and disintegrates them, and the noxious fumes and the gases that come out from it will kill other smaller creatures around as well. It is a virus bomb, which the Death Guard and Mortarion are known for. Mortarion loves a little bit of poison. The 4th Greater Demon, the one of Tzeentch, the Master of Magic himself, the Lord of Change, is a 7 mana 6/6 with flying and ward 3. And Lord of Change enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. I think this is wonderful, honestly. The Lord of Change is the Greater Demon of the Master of Knowledge and Understanding and Subterfuge and Intelligence. So drawing cards is very thematic. It having ward 3 is a reference to how hard these things are to kill at range. So in the tabletop game, they have incredible invulnerable saves and difficulty and minuses and debuffs to people shooting at them because they are incredibly durable due to their psychic and powerful magical warding. It does make sense that it's more durable than a Great Unclean one, but the fact that it's a 6/6 compared to the Great Unclean one is kind of weird. Like a Great Unclean one should be able to kill a Lord of Change in a fight, and it just can't. Strange stuff. And then we get to the Herald that I thought we'd already seen. It's a flying 3/3 for 5 mana that has Cascade. Cool. It's the worst of the Heralds by a huge margin, but I'm okay with that. So there we have it. We have overwhelmingly a huge amount of exciting hits and a couple of misses if we're completely honest and frank about it. The Great Unclean one being probably my biggest disappointment across the entire product so far. So what do you think? Are you picking up the deck? Are you excited still? Are you buying stuff? Was this video too long? Was it not long enough? Do you want to see more of this? Let me know in the comment section below. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet, and I'll see you all soon. Ta-ta for now.